Hi, this is Edward Troxel. Today we're going to look at render templates, and with newer versions of Vegas we can actually compare the settings of the render templates to the settings of the project, so we can limit how many renderers we see instead of looking at all of them. So if we wanted to get a list that only matched the current render properties, this would be a good way to check that. So let's take a look and see at how we can do that. In this case, let's look at our file properties. You can see we have 1920 by 1080. The field order is progressive scan. Our pixel aspect ratio is 1.0, and our frame rate is 29.97. So now we want to look to see if we can find only those render templates that match those settings. So let's look at our code. Here we have our myVegas variable, and then I've created a couple of arrays, one called full renderer and one called full template. I just set them to a size of 999. That's just kind of a random size that I knew would be too big. You might want to use lists instead, or put these in some other way. This was just a simple way of having a place to put them for this tutorial. So we have a couple of arrays here, and then in our main routine I have set me up a project video properties variable called vidprop, which I got from myvegas.project.video. And the only reason I did that was to shorten it, so I didn't have to put myvegas.project.video.width, myvegas.project.video.height, myvegas.project.video.pixel aspect ratio. This way I can just go vidprop.width, vidprop.height, vidprop.pixel aspect ratio. So now I'm going to get me an integer variable called total found, and I'm going to get that from find all renderers. And then I'm going to pass it the current project settings, which we've just discussed was vidprop.width, vidprop.height, vidprop.pixel aspect ratio, vidprop.framerate, and vidprop.field order. And then I'm going to display how many we found. So here's the actual find all renderers routine, where it's an integer is what it's going to pass back, and we're passing in an integer which is width, an integer which is height, a double for par, a double for frame rate, and a video field order variable called field order. Then I'm going to set me up a count variable and set it to 0. Then I threw these inside of try catches because I've seen some issues in the past when reading the renders, so it's safer just to put these inside some try catches. And then for each renderer, which I called renderer, in myvegas.renderers, we're going to look at every template. So for each render template in renderer.templates, first of all, is this render template valid? If it is valid, then we're going to check to see if it matches our current settings. So if the render template.video width equals width, and the render template.video height equals height, and the render template.video pixel aspect ratio equals the par, and the frame rate equals the frame rate, and the field order equals the field order, then we want to add this one to our array and increment our count. And then after all of the catches are done, we're going to return the count. So let's see what happens when we run this. When we run this, it says that it found 28 matches. If we want to go through and actually see what the matches are, we can do that. So what I've done here now is I've created me a string variable, which I just called S. I'm getting the renderer name, then putting a new line, then a renderer template name, and getting a new line. And then we're going to view the width, the height, the par, the frame rate, and the field order using both the values that were passed and the values from the render template so that we can see that they were the same. So now when we run this, we'll see our first match is the Sony AVC MVC. We do see that there is a slight difference here in the frame rate. It shows is 29.97.002997003 versus 29.97. Obviously, Vegas is properly interpreting that those are the same values. And then we have the Sony XAVC, another Sony XAVC, a third one, a Magic HEVC, an Apple ProRes, another one, another Apple ProRes, an AV1, an AVC MP4, another one using the Intel QSV, another one using NVENC, and we go through the rest of these matches. Until we see that it did find 28. So if you were wanting to look through the templates and only use the ones that you know match your project settings, this is a way you can do that. You can actually do the same thing with audio. There's some audio settings in there that you can check. Now, the thing is, this only started with newer versions of Vegas. I believe it was version 19 was the first version. You could actually read the render template settings from the script. You can't set them, but you can read them. And so if you're using 19 or newer, then you can check to see, does this template match my project? And if it does, then it's one that I might want to use. So I hope you like this tutorial. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.